Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I'm talking with my new friend, Peter here, who is also a musician like Mikey and myself. So we're going to get into a little bit of the music chit-chat later on. But first, we are going to talk about your journey away from being a Seventh-day Adventist. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And you just let me know that that's your music at the start there, and I love it. I was listening to a few of your shows and just thinking, boy, I wonder who that band. I even held up Shazam to see if I could work out.
No luck.
I
haven't registered with them yet for some reason.
I love so much of the music that's come out of Canada, like Bachman Turner Overdrive. When I was young, one of my first albums was Not Fragile.
They're Canadian?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lied to.
They were the Guess Who.
Yeah, that's right. And well, hang on.
Uh-oh, trouble.
Just dropping the coffee on the floor.
Uh-oh, okay. Good, because we do have a drinking game, FYI. So when my phone has a Mario coin noise, so every time it goes off, you'll see hashtag coins down there. So
cool.
And then everyone takes a drink.
Yeah. Yeah, but Not Fragile was just such an amazing album. In fact, I think one of the things that helped me not be totally indoctrinated with Adventism was just getting into the music. And I remember Atlanta Rhythm Section and Jimi Hendrix and,
oh, yeah, I love
Bachman Turner Overdrive. And it just kind of puts you into this kind of music nation. You feel like your real home is with the music nation. Mm-hmm. So kind of as a young fella listening to Status Quo and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath kind of helped me kind of deprogram my brain.
Yeah. Sabbath is my all-time favorite band.
Oh, yeah. Well, that little bit of intro there that you've got before the heavy guitar comes in reminds me a little bit of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, the song, that kind of guitar work. Yeah.
Wow. That's huge praise for me.
So, yeah, I was fifth generation Adventist. Ellen G. White's the kind of a prophet, the main leading light of Adventism. Mm-hmm. And she, like a lot of these kind of religions, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Christian Science with Mary Baker Eddy, they all kind of established themselves in the mid to late 1800s, all within a 200-mile radius of each other. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, is Massachusetts and Michigan far from each other? How far apart are they?
Massachusetts from where?
From like Michigan.
About, I don't know, 800 miles.
Oh, yeah, okay. About 1,000 miles, give or take.
So, yeah. Well, then their origins of birth were there. So Ellen G. White, she came and lived in Australia for a time in the late 1800s, and my great grandfather actually met her. So in the family, history of great moments. Not only was I indoctrinated for 5 generations prior to me, we had that little, flag to be carried as well. But so officially I because Adventists worship on Saturday, that's their kind of key distinction.
The same as in Judaism, because that's the actual Sabbath according to Judaism, right? It was Friday evening to Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's right. And well, I'll give you a little bit of a history of Adventism just to kind of nestle it into kind of how significant it is and how different it is to mainstream Christianity, but how most Adventists today would think it's just normal Christian movement. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, and I think before I start, I just want to make it clear I'm not attacking Adventists. Their family, friends, really good people. Mm-hmm. I spoke to a professional the other day that's like a lawyer in town that I know, and he said, I've never met a bad Adventist. I've never met an Adventist I didn't like. And it's true. Adventists are really interesting people, and Often because of this kind of tension within the church itself, they've kind of had to become quite academic and intellectualized, and they're interesting to have conversations with.
Well, quick question. What would be, I guess, the main doctrine of an Adventist?
So I'll tell you this, how it started. That'll kind of frame what the main doctrine is. So in pre-1844, there's a guy called William Miller, and he was preaching to the world that Jesus was coming back very soon. And he'd worked through Daniel, Revelation, like many people before him and after him. Settled, was saying he's coming any day, coming back any day. People today are still saying that. And after after about
even though in the Bible it says he's supposed to return during the time of his apostles and whatnot.
Yeah,
so.
I know. Yeah, and don't pick a day. Pretty clearly says that. And so anyway, after about 20 failed attempts, they settled eventually on 1844, October 22, 1844. And
that's my birthday.
When this
I'm kidding.
Is it?
I'm really old.
My daughter is October 23, so
I'm on the 20th.
All right. So when that day came and went, the hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and particularly in the States, were gathering that night. So midnight comes and goes, and in this part of the world, and I thought it was Michigan, Massachusetts, kind of Boston, Battle Creek area, that was huge there, and a lot of them gathering the next day. They'd sold their farms, their crops, they'd let run into the ground, and Jesus didn't come back. So half of them, including William Miller, said, right, I'm going back to my church, or I'm leaving belief altogether, or just disappeared off the planet. But a bunch of people kind of gathered together and hung out together, and over the next few days tried to work out what had gone wrong. And so this guy called Hiram Edson was walking through his cornfields in deep depression, and he said he had this inspiring moment, not a vision, but just this inspiring moment. And he said, I realized that when we thought Jesus was coming back to cleanse the earthly sanctuary and take everyone to heaven, what he was really doing was going from the holy part of the heavenly sanctuary to the most holy part, and he was about to begin a judgment and come back any day. So this bunch of Adventists, including Ellen G. White, a guy called James, well, she was Ellen Gould, but her future husband, James White, another guy called Joseph Bates, they were like, this is it. This is gold. This is incredible. And she had a vision to confirm this Hiram Edson's inspirational thought. And so she confirmed that, yes, Jesus has moved from the holy to the most holy, and he is now judging. And everyone who didn't believe William Miller, they're going to miss out. And any day he's coming back to take us to heaven. And during this time period, we have to keep the commandments. Now, I'm kind of nutshelling everything there. This happened over a little bit of time, but with various visions. So the very initial time period, and this is the complete DNA of Adventism in this nutshell, is that Jesus is coming back any day. We have to prepare for his return, and to be prepared, we have to do this, and this eventually. Now, initially, her vision was called a shut door vision, which meant that anyone who didn't believe this, who dismissed this notion that Jesus was coming back, they had no chance. But after months went by, Jesus is still not back. They're trying really hard to keep the commandments. New people wanted to join this movement. It wasn't a religion at this stage. Babies were being born. So by about a year, they're going, okay, so he's not coming back straight away. maybe
Weird.
people can be born into it. So she has another vision that opens the door a little wider. People can join the church as long as they believe that you have to keep the commandments. And eventually the Sabbath came into this because the Sabbath is the fourth commandment. And
Right.
then they will be ready for Jesus. But as the years went by, Jesus didn't come back. And Ellen White had this incredible vision. She said the Lord had showed her, and I think this was about 1854 or something, or 51, something around then. She's doing this sermon in church, and she said, the Lord's coming back so soon that some people in this very room will be there to meet him, and others will be food for worms. Now, of the 40 or so people in the room, and a list was kept until like about 1920 when the last person died on that list. And so the second gem of Adventism grew out of Christ not returning, them needing to be ready for his return, but with this extra caveat that's a condition. Unless the church is ready, the Lord won't return. So it's kind of...
That's how they get around it.
So the nutshell of Adventism is Jesus is coming any day. Get ready. What can you do to be ready? And it's an absolutely fascinating religion. I'm still involved with doing a podcast where it's a former Adventist looking in from the outside. Right. And I interview all sorts of interesting Adventists. And it is a fascinating religion. And I'll touch on some other points, but you might want to ask questions around that.
How do the people that you have on your podcast that are still Adventists, how do they feel about you leaving the whole thing?
So when I left, so it's about 6 years ago, I wrote on my Facebook wall, this is my last Sabbath as a Seventh-day Adventist. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to kind of be true to myself. I'm a late starter in life. I had my first daughter when I was 50, and I've got 2 little girls now. And I just wanted them to grow up. I was kind of socially acclimatized to Adventism, happy to remain an Adventist because I loved playing music. A lot of my income was from playing music within the church. A lot of friends there. The progressive liberal Adventists don't really take on board all that kind of fundamental Adventism that I was talking about. So I was happy to kind of be a social Adventist, but as I have these 2 little girls come into my life, I'm like, well, hang on, when they grow up and say, so you're a Seventh-day Adventist, but you don't believe in it. I didn't want to have to answer that question. So that's why I put on
right.
Facebook a public statement. And anyway, that kind of hit a nerve. I didn't realize it. And so it had thousands of comments and likes.
Of course, that's going to hit a nerve.
I just thought I'm just quietly kind of myself, but yeah, it took a life of its own there for a while. Brought out lots of interesting kind of comments from people hating, people saying I'd done the right thing, and I didn't even comment on it because it just went so crazy. I thought I'm not even going to buy into the conversation. Everyone
had a situation similar recently, so I get it.
Right? Yeah. Everyone had a completely different perspective of why. It made me realize how much your identity is. You're seen as so different from so many different perspectives. There is no real you out there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just whatever concepts of you people have, really.
Yeah.
And rarely do they match the concept you have of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I just didn't really comment. And right at the end, after a few months, I just wrote, look, thanks for your comments. I left for personal reasons. And it wasn't because I was angry. Everyone loves to say, oh, you're really angry with someone, or
yeah,
you
just
had a falling out with someone. And I'm like, no, it was a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think the main reason was for you leaving?
Main reason was I wanted to be able to be authentic to my daughters.
Okay.
And that's why I've gravitated to the term free thinker, because I want them to grow up with this sense of, like, even now, like Renee's 9 and Ruby's 7, and they'll ask me, what are we? If we're not Adventists and we're not Catholics and we're not this and this, and I say we're free-thinking secular humanists. And I like that notion that they can say maybe or maybe not, or I don't know, we try and look at what can we conclude from evidence, and what conclusions can we draw from other people's claims,
Right.
based on us being able to demonstrate and measure those things.
Sure. So you're actually teaching them to actually have a kind of a skeptical point of view, and to always sort of investigate and look into it and see what you like, what you don't like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because sadly, when people use, say, the term atheist or agnostic, other people, like we're just saying, people have an identity of what they think that means, whereas you can't really get free thinking wrong. Whereas people think that an atheist or agnostic is a belief system of its own, which it's not. So that's
they're just positions on a question. That's all they are.
Exactly.
Atheist is a position.
Yeah.
Theist is a position. Anti-theist is a position.
Yeah. So that's why for them, I wanted to really allow them to explore the idea of being able to think freely. It's interesting. Ruby still kind of believes in Santa Claus, and she was she every year she drills down on me and says, so do you believe in Santa? And I go, look, this year let's set a trap and see if we can confirm. And but last night she was really not taking that anymore, because I've said to her, look, there's no such thing as magic, but life is magical. And so she's going, for Santa to get down the chimney there, Dad, that'd have to take some magic. So you don't really believe in Santa, do you? And I don't know, I kind of squirmed out of it somehow.
Oh, I think I left the oven on in the other room. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I pretty much did that. But,
something burning?
Yeah. But Adventism didn't fully form until I think 1863, 1864. And that's when this bunch of people that had kind of felt they'd stumbled on the real thing that happened. They go, while Jesus didn't come back, something did happen in 1844. And they kept setting dates. They won't publicly admit that now, but they kept setting dates up until 1851, because that's 7 years after 1844. And a lot of people have 7 is a magic number. And she was having visions from God saying, what we have had years to learn and be prepared, most newcomers have only months to learn. This was leading up to 1851. After 1851, they realized they're going to have to play a bit of a long game. And so it sort of shifted. They turned into an actual religion. And what's interesting is the Adventists claim this connection and a restoration of the Reformation. And yet the Reformation of Luther was all about directing people back to a biblical view. And Adventists claim that it's the Bible alone. But if Ellen White makes a claim that's not biblical, and you stand against it with a biblical emphasis, the church will lean to what she said. So by the time we reached 1888, they had this huge conference where people were kind of going, we kind of feel like we need to have this righteousness of faith. We need Jesus in our lives, and the focus is all on the law and getting ready for his return, but we're not actually having this Jesus relationship kind of thing. And so they had this conference which started to pit a left and right against each other, within Adventism, that prevails to this day. One side said, yes, we need Jesus and he will help us keep the commandments. And another side said, we need Jesus and we stand righteous in his blood, or his atonement for us. And so our sins aren't really seen by God. And so they both claim this righteous of faith and Jesus first.
Wait a minute. Their sins aren't seen? How I don't understand that. How does that work?
Yeah, that it's interesting, because the more liberal, progressive, scholarly, academic Adventist has a lot of cognitive dissonance going on, and so a lot of what their claims are don't really make sense. Whereas the fundamentalists,
God is omnipresent, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but the fundamentalist is very clear in their view that Jesus is first, foremost. He will come into your heart, and him coming into your heart will help you be sinless. Being sinless is important because you have to have a perfect character to enter heaven. And then, as I said earlier, that extrapolates.
I guess nobody's there.
Yeah. Well, Adventists don't believe you go to heaven after you die. They believe in soul sleep. You drift off to sleep, and the Lord returns at some point, and your soul is connected with your body and restored, and up to heaven you go. And
no or nothing.
Ellen White kind of prevailed over the church. Her husband died quite early, actually, about 1881, and she prevailed and died in 1915. And in 1919, they had a big conference of all the leaders and scholars and theologians talking about where to from now, because within the church, Ellen on one side had been elevated to like genuinely equal to the prophets of the Bible. And on the other side, there's all these questions of plagiarism. She copied a lot of stuff from other authors. She had really clever secretaries, Marion Davis, Fanny Bolton, who pretty much wrote most of the great books. Ellen was a great speaker, and she would write a lot, but really bad grammar, really bad concepts, lots of repeating. And these two women among a whole team of, it's like the Andy Warhol thing where he'd had an art factory that other people kind of doing his artwork under his instruction. And in the 70s, well, it was known at this conference that she was copying things, borrowing, they would say. But it's pretty clear that she was like her. In fact, a lot of her first vision even is from what's Milton's famous poem, Paradise Lost, I think.
Yes.
And all her health stuff. Adventists claim to have a really great health movement. A lot of that's copied from a lot of the health movement of the day, the famous guys of the day, Edersheim and these guys that were writing books on health. Suddenly she'd go to one of their meetings or read one of their books, and next minute she's having a vision confirming the same sort of thing.
Of course.
Well, to be fair, there wasn't a way for people to go back and Google what she was saying, so it wasn't popping up. So you get away with it for a good 6 months, year and a half.
Yeah,
before somebody realizes that's somebody else's.
Totally true. So when this conference had finished, they kind of voted that they'd keep it all a bit quiet for a while because they knew it would just bust the church wide open, and they didn't deal with it. And that the minutes from that meeting weren't found until about 1973 or 1976. And when they were exposed, the church suddenly went, hang on, this whole kind of thing that we've been thinking about Ellen White and direct messages from God may have been plagiarized. They did a huge study. Fred Veltman was his name, and he was a conservative Adventist in the 80s, and he spent 8 years and just looking at Desire of Ages, one book, and pretty much concludes that well over 80% of it is copied. And so what happened in the leading up to 1957, I'm kind of giving you this overview because it's fascinating, but these two sides of the church, one that wants Jesus first and your sins are forgiven, forgotten, and yes, you have to lead a Christian life of virtue, but it's not a salvation issue. So one side is saying, you believe in Jesus, he loves you, you try and be a better person, but it's not a salvation issue. Keeping the Sabbath is not a salvation issue. Then the other camp is going, you have to be sinless, you have to get your character perfect, you have to remember the Sabbath is a salvation issue. So as those two groups are polarizing more and more, there's a guy called Walter Martin and Donald Barnhouse in the 50s, who are famous Christian evangelicals, and they're about to put out a book called, I think, King of the Cults or something on cults. And they're going to include Christian Science, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and Seventh-day Adventists. And the Adventists get wind of this. And in the late 50s, the Adventist church worldwide is only 1 million people. Now it's about 25 million. And they're like, whoa, if we get put in a book called The Cults, we're going to be, we're never going to grow again. And so they contacted these two guys and said, look, we're not a cult. And so Walter Martin said, look, I'll come down and chat with your leaders and your academics and let's see what you really believe. So the committee got together, met with him, and they gave a watered down version of Adventism. They gave this more Jesus first, salvations. I mean, the works and what you do in life is not a salvation issue. So he went away and thought, okay, you are part of the Christian body. You go to church on Saturday, you have a few quirky beliefs. And because of that, by the time we hit the 80s, the Adventists were now 4 or 5 million strong. And as I was born in the 60s, and so they released
Me too.
book. Yeah, awesome. They released.
No.
Just wanted to belong.
Maybe 1980s. You got a 6 in there.
Nailed it.
They released a book in 1957 that gave this more polished, nice Adventist view. So my era, anyone born after 57 is born into a kind of environment that had a garden bed that was allowing you to be a bit more of a Christian evangelical instead of a Adventist fundamentalist. But by the time we get to the 70s, and I'll shut up about the history of this in a second, we have the two really polarized groups. One is even called the Concerned Brethren, and they totally fight against this book and this new theology, they call it. And the other group are the liberal progressives. Now, it's interesting, the conservatives love being pigeonholed. We are conservative, and it's an us and them. But the liberals go, oh, look, let's not put us in a you can't pigeonhole us or this kind of thing. Generally speaking, there are two groups. And in 1980, the lines were kind of drawn, and a famous Adventist theologian, Dr. Des Ford, presented the views of the right, the more liberal progressive Adventist. He was shut down, lost his job. Hundreds of Adventist pastors lost their jobs because they aligned with him. And the landscape of the 80s right to now has just been one of the two sides not really liking each other. But the current president of the Adventist Church, Ted Wilson, has returned the church to a fundamentalist view, and he has put forward 6 policies that have become policy called the compliance document. And if you work for the church and don't agree with the compliance document, you will first be warned, then reprimanded, then sanctioned, then fired. And of those 6 things, one of them is women cannot be ordained ministers, which means they cannot get the top positions in the church.
Really?
Gay LGBTQIA plus cannot hold any office in the church, and they definitely cannot be practicing. They can be an Adventist, a member, but they can't hold position, and they must publicly let them know that they're not practicing, or they cannot be an Adventist. You must believe the earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old.
When you say practicing, what does that mean? Like they can't
can't have sex. They can't have sex. They can't get married. They can't cohabitate. They can only say, I am gay.
Exist.
And in my other podcast where I talk to these, I've been talking to a lot of the LGBTQIA plus Adventists that are in the Adventist community, and I have gotten into so much trouble for kind of being an ally of that community, because the podcast speaks into the Adventist community. It's not me speaking to former Adventists. It's speaking to every kind of Adventist from my perspective. And so I let anyone have a talk. But like donations from there have plummeted because I've been supporting the LGBTQ.
Oh boy.
So anyway, there's these 6 things that, and already it's become policy, and if it and 6 Adventist unions have been warned, and the next step is that the next GC gathering, which is next year, they will be reprimanded and job losses will. And I'm saying to the community that I speak back into that this compliance document. I mean, who gets to control what's on the compliance order, and what do they add things later on? And if you say, oh,
amendment.
Amendment. If you say, oh, but all the liberals say, well, my local church is not like that, and we have a female minister, and ours is great. Yeah, but the trickle down effect, once you have your division leaders getting sanctioned, your union leaders getting sanctioned, your conference leaders getting sanctioned, your pastors getting sanctioned, within a few years, Adventism is going to go back to the dark ages of early Adventism. But in closing of this spiel, I say that is the DNA of Adventism when you understand the first 7 years of Adventism. It is about works. It's about being ready for Jesus to come any day. And if you're not ready, it's your fault. He hasn't come back because you're not ready. So there we go.
I love that little caveat. He's coming back any day now if you're ready.
If you're ready.
It's like classic. It's like that classic free beer tomorrow sign.
Yeah, free beer tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. And I spoke to a really interesting guy. He's got a YouTube channel called Defeating Adventism. He's never met an Adventist. He's never been into an Adventist church, but he knows more about Adventism than any Adventist I know. And there's another guy called, he's got Testing a Prophet. If you ever want to find out about Ellen White and plagiarism, Testing a Prophet is an amazing channel. But I interviewed the Defeating Adventism guy the other day, and I said, what about Adventist apologists when they say, well, the prophecy was conditional? He said, if you're going to make a conditional prophecy, you need to say, hey, guys, Jesus is coming back any day. Some of you will see him come. Some of you will be food for worms, unless you blah, blah, blah. You have to add that in your prophecy if it's conditional. Otherwise, anyone can prophesy anything, and
of course,
and add the conditional later. And people claim, like, there's a famous movie. I won't even say it because I don't want to promote it, but it's about Adventism. And in the movie,
Too Fast, Too Furious.
No.
Ellen White is purported to have held up this heavy Bible for a long time, and on another occasion, she's purported to have pointed to the Bible and quoted Bible texts. And now I'm pointing to this, and people would look up and she's actually pointing to it. She'd turn another page, and then she'd point to another thing. And neither of those things ever happened. There's no evidence of any of that happening. But in the movie, this kind of a
in 1844, who was taking pictures?
Exactly.
I recorded them on my cell phone.
Some guy with a pencil sketching it out.
Yeah, fast sketching, stenographer. And in the movie, they show this scene where she's doing this, and a guy leans over next to me, and he says, "See, it did happen." And I thought, dude, it's a movie. And so there's lots of myths about Ellen White. She went. There's a famous, I think, in San Francisco in 1908 or something. There was a big earthquake somewhere around then. She's in the rubble of it, and she goes, I saw this a few months ago in vision that this was going to happen. Now, everyone who tells that story says, see, that's evidence that she saw this. But you can't be at the event claiming to have seen it a few months ago. So anyway, yeah. So Adventism's at a real big crossroads at the moment. And they were at the crossroads in the early 80s with the Des Ford thing, with the plagiarism thing, and with also there was a big Ponzi scheme they got involved with.
Oh, shit.
And $20 million, $1979, whatever that would be now, was wrapped up in some Ponzi scheme that actual church money was used. So there's these kind of leaders at the top that rule over suppressed women and marginalized men, and it's a big money-making kind of thing, but the average Adventist just doesn't even really know or want to know about it. Had you guys heard much about Adventism before?
No, I knew of it, but I didn't really know much about it, and it's not like it felt interesting enough for me to delve into it too much. But
yeah,
I definitely knew. I knew one person in my sphere that was one. Yeah. No longer a Seventh Day, but they're atheists like myself now. So
Ben Carson's an Adventist.
Yeah,
really. Okay.
Yeah, little Richard was an Adventist pretty much all his life.
Wow.
Prince was an Adventist for a while, also. Malcolm X.
A lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. Malcolm X was an Adventist just before he became involved with the Islamic faith.
That $20 million in 1979 Australian money translates into $98,661,087.87 today.
Amazing.
What'd you call Swede?
I got a hotline.
we have a financial guy on that's always in our after parties, which reminds me, you're good for hanging around for a little bit longer after the interview.
Yeah, 100%.
Great.
Yeah.
Get to meet a lot of our zany friends.
Nice. I like Tangela, of course, Tangela Wright. She's been so welcoming, because it's only like maybe 2 months ago that I thought I'm going to start a podcast that's kind of along the lines of something I feel really aligned with, and so that's been going really well. And what I was going to say is I just feel really welcomed. Like I'm used to kind of doing music in the Adventist church every weekend, getting told off. I saw you tapping your foot. You're devil possessed, or you're a tool of Satan. Yeah, tool of Satan.
Hold on. Now, this is I usually ask people about their church experiences, because growing up in non-denominational and Baptist churches, we have some pretty all right music.
Yeah,
you can't even tap your toes at the Seventh-day Adventist church.
Well, this is the thing. You'll go to most Adventist churches and no one will ever say that to you. Like, they'll be fine with it. There's no kind of edict that you can't. But what I mean is, if I play to 100 people, afterwards there's going to be 5 people that say that to me. So most people are fine. Most people are fine.
Oh, shit.
But I used to sing every year at a local Adventist college. And I have sung every year there for 40 years. And this is the first year that I'm not. I've not been invited back. But even when I left the church 6 years ago, I used to still do. Over here they call it bush dancing. You guys have it. What do you call it when you do a do-say-do and a
square dancing?
Square dancing, yeah. It's like that, but it's more a pattern that you already know. So it's this bush actual dance moves, and you'll do the drongo, or you'll do the whip, strip the willow, or whatever it's called. And I'd be wanting to play rock and roll dance music, but the only kind of music I could play for the Adventist church was country music or bush dancing. But bush dancing to most Adventists is very evil. And so I for 30 years or 31 years of those.
What if it's burning bush dancing?
What if it's the song Glycerin?
I wish I'd chatted to you, Neil, a few years ago. I could have put that on the advertising. The burning
bush dancing.
Oh, I love it. But I got snuck under the radar, kind of, in many ways, and I would do these bush dances. And about 25 years ago, I would start finishing the night with rock and roll, just Chuck Berry, Bill Haley, that kind of rock and roll. And then gradually,
Iron Maiden,
full on loud mosh pit,
Slayer,
Rain and Blood,
and so we'd do this hour and a half of bush dancing, and then we'd just rock it up. And the kids had a ball. We loved it. I miss it. But as soon as I kind of, as soon as the conservatives kind of got onto me, I'd flown under the radar. My run of 30 years was over a couple of years ago. But it was good. But boy, yeah, I got into flack about that all the time. Every weekend, you're getting told off by a percentage of the audience, a small percentage, and you just think it's normal. So as I've kind of entered into the free thinking community, and to have this sense of just feeling accepted and friendly and nice conversations, it's a weird thing to constantly be expecting flack from people that you're just not getting anymore.
Yeah,
like
you're ready to strike back almost. Like
I'm always ready for someone to attack me. And even on my podcast, every day I get hate mail. Every day.
Wow.
From every possible faction of Adventism.
Wow.
From the liberal Adventists, why you can't speak to us or support us if you're not an Adventist. From supporters of the gay movement, you're not offering a space where we feel safe. And I go, but I'm an ally. Yeah, but someone wrote a critical thing, and I said, but there's like 1,000 comments. How do I can't monitor everything that someone says.
Right.
So anyway, but I love.
You don't have
like
to either.
And no,
people that leave comments can battle themselves.
Exactly. And I kind of like a bit of controversy anyway. I've never run from anything like that. Oh, you said what was the thing that I most wired kind of left, and because I wanted to be true to my girls, but the other spin-off thing that came from it, and I realized it a few days later, and I woke up in the morning one morning, I thought, whoa, hang on. I just felt really good. I felt like a load was off my shoulder, and I just felt not from a supernatural sense, but in my mind, from my subconscious, came these words: "You are your own person." And I just loved that. And from that moment on, I've just been my own person, warts and all, on a journey, making mistakes, doing good things, doing shit, whatever. But I just feel like I'm my own person. I'm responsible for, and it's just the most liberating thing. I love it. Love it. If anyone
wanted
the
first time I've heard someone say that.
Interesting. In fact, I wish I'd deconstructed, 25 years ago. But brainwashing apparently takes about 25 years to
give or take
disentangle yourself from.
Yeah, well, it can for sure. I mean, it depends on just how deep you're in it. I grew up in the Jewish faith, but we were fairly. My mom likes to say like secularish type Jews, because many Jews today are secular.
That's true.
They don't really even believe in a God anymore so much, but they definitely carry on the traditions of the homeland, I guess, or whatever the fuck. But they carry on all that stuff, and the Hanukkah, the Passover, they go through all the motions just because it's just
the
what
ceremonies
you do every year. Yeah.
Ceremonies kind of good, really. Like,
oh sure,
if you can disentangle yourself from, there's something nice about
from the spiritual, supernatural garbage.
It's something nice about the process of ritual.
Yeah, and we do it every day more than we realize. Every single day we have rituals. But that's just part of human nature.
I'm just looking at it.
This is Zero. He's a Maltese Shih Tzu.
Oh, beautiful dog.
And he wouldn't get off. He was just sitting there, and he's about to start barking. So I was like, all right, come on. Now he wants to be in my hoodie. You're not a puppy anymore, buddy. You don't fit in my pocket anymore.
I can't wait to get you on my show, Neil and Mikey, if you like, because I want to talk more about your music.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of which,
I'm not used to being interviewed. I'm used to doing the other way around.
Well, I mean, we're not really sure. I call them interviews, but I like to think of these more as just like organic conversations.
Oh, I love that,
because I don't script anything.
No, I hate scripting.
I look a little bit about who you are, and like listening to some of your tunes and peeking in on a couple of the people you've spoken to and stuff like that. But I get a little bit of an idea, but I just like to have a chat with people. Converse.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
So we.
How did you and Mikey kind of get together? Is it like a shared kind of show, or?
Nope. See, fuck, Mike. I don't even remember how the hell. I think I was looking for something in a dumpster, and there was Mikey in there.
Yeah, I was about to say there was this poor guy, just crying on the internet, and he really needed a producer. So I was like, I guess I'll help him out. Yes, I did my deconversion on Neil's show like 3 years ago.
Okay,
it was a while ago. But yeah, I've been hanging out, and then I was like, you know what? It would look really cool if this was there, and then this was there, and this was there. You know what? You should get a producer. You know what? I should be the producer.
He's kind of slid himself in.
I created a problem, and then I was the answer to the problem.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Sounds like religion.
I like it. Yeah.
And here's the irony: it's a deconversion show. Perfect.
That's right.
Nailed it.
Fuck Ollie. Ollie wants to know, Peter, if there's any good disc golf courses in Australia.
Of course.
Any what disc golf?
Disc
courses?
golf. It's frisbees, but you play it like golf. You play like 9 holes or 18 holes or whatever.
See, I'm
and
learning.
Throw it all the way down there and get it in the hoop or whatever the hell it's called.
I'm learning something new because I had not heard of that game before. There are lots of great golf courses, but I don't know about the disc golf courses.
Ollie and like 17 other people on the earth play that game, so he's very excited about it.
I think they all live in his neighborhood too.
It's just him and his friends.
Like that's the town Ollie lives in. It's Disc Golf, Nova Scotia, or New Brunswick, or whatever. Where the hell do you live, Ollie? I keep forgetting. The other side of Canada. I'm on the west coast. He's on the east coast.
Okay, get down. There you go.
So, whereabouts are you in Aussie land?
So I am north of Sydney by about an hour.
Okay, cool.
There's a kind of an area here called the Central Coast of New South Wales.
Oh yes, yeah.
I'm literally probably half an hour from the lake, probably closer than that. I like to say I'm 20 minutes from the lake, 20 minutes from the nearest city, Newcastle, 20 minutes from the ocean, 20 minutes from the mountains, 20 minutes from the Hunter Valley wineries.
Sounds like where I am.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much like 20 minutes from the big city, 20 minutes from the hills, 20 minutes from the mountains, I should say. 20 minutes from the ocean, 20 minutes from the farmland. It's like it's all right here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we love it here. And got a nice little house there and my 2 little girls and a nice little puppy dog. It's funny being a dad starting later. Part of that, because like this, Neil, with music, I was kind of traveling for 20 years just playing music and I just loved it. And I just had never famous or wealthy or anything. I just was either a sideman in bands or support act. In fact, when I was about in the early 2000s, my band, we're called the Outback Hippies, and we toured with Status Quo as their support act, and they were my Status Quo, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath were just the 3 golden bands when I was like 14 to 16. And so to chat with them after the gig, like,
oh no way,
Francis Rossi and Rick Parfitt. Oh, it was just legendary.
Cool.
I loved it.
I got to speak to
I just had a great time. What's that?
I got to meet Ozzy and talk with him for a few minutes once.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Hey, I worked at a record store in Richmond, British Columbia, and I didn't know who he was at the time because I didn't recognize him because he's just wearing this weird plaid shirt and ripped up bell-bottom jeans. And he comes in and he's got this long, greasy blonde hair. I'm not talking about Ozzy, by the way. But it was Zakk Wylde, his guitar player at the time, right? He bought like cassettes too. Like I think it was Archangels, the Ry Cooder side project, which is phenomenal. And Stevie Nicks' greatest hits. And he threw them down there. He put down his platinum Visa and it said Zachary Philip Wilde. I'm like, wait,
my
Ozzy's guitar player? And he's like, yeah, I'm Ozzy's guitar player. Is he here with you? He's like, yeah, he's over at the muffin shop. I go, Steve, I'm going on the break. And I went over and
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I love it. Hang out with him for a few minutes, about 10 minutes or so. Then they were in the midst of recording the song Mama, I'm Coming Home, actually, in a little studio in Richmond. Yeah.
That is such a good song. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. I remember first putting on Sweetleaf, you know,
I love
Masters of Reality. Getting that vinyl record. Yeah. I think it would have been 1976 I first stumbled across that. And being an Adventist, we had no connection to the secular world. They like a separation. But for some reason, my mate, who wasn't an Adventist, had all these albums. And it just blew my mind. And I just remember putting that on. And, you know, the song starts with... and then Ozzy comes in with "All Right Now," and it's just, I was just gone. Like I think to this day, you listen to that album and there's something intoxicating about the way he sings that is so unique. He's so unique.
Ozzy's always been my favorite singer for Sabbath, obviously, because he's the original. But I very much like the Dio stuff that they did as well.
Yeah,
Ronnie James Dio.
We were lucky here in Australia and not living far from Sydney. All the great bands around the world have come here. You know, like I remember seeing Queen. Only months, September, so in 1985, so only months after they'd done the big World Live Aid thing. And it was just insane. 20,000 people going nuts. The whole song, every song from start to finish. It was like, it's just not like that anymore. Like demonstrably.
So question for you, what instrument do you play, Peter? I already know this, but...
I play guitar and try to sing. I feel like if I'd been a good rock singer, I could have had a lot more progress in the world. But yeah, I love playing guitar. It's my thing. And I love a variety of stuff. Like J.J. Cale is probably my go-to desert island. If I could only choose one album, I'd choose that one. It's like a compilation album of his. And he's the most mellow artist, but J.J. Cale is just so good.
J.J. Cale's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man, there's so many phenomenal artists. Like, you know, you discover one, like working in a record store was huge for me because you find so many artists here. Like, holy shit. Like even what's his name? The old drummer for the Stones.
Charlie Watts.
Charlie Watts, his jazz outfit. Holy shit, man. That's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it was great. But it was just amazing.
I love Charlie Watts. I've seen the Stones 3 times. I remember seeing them in 1993. And what struck me was you don't really notice it on the albums, but the absolute key component to the Stones is Charlie Watts. When you see them live, you realize that everything is around him.
It hinges all on him,
yeah, just the way you want to move, and
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your guitar players are, how good your singer is. Your drummer is the band
and bass player.
Yes.
They're the foundation.
They are the band. That if they 100%. Suck, it ain't going to take long for everybody to figure out that they suck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's that great documentary. So what's your band called?
Liminus, Liminis, and it's Latin. We're calling ourselves Threshold, but there's some band in England called Threshold that threatened to sue us.
It's a good name, though. Threshold.
Yeah. And it came out, it's like we didn't even have a name when we went in to record our first little 7-song EP thingy.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking around the studio and there's one little dial that said Threshold on it. And I was, hey, how about Threshold? I was like, we'll go with it.
They can't sue you for that. You can't sue someone for a name unless they're super famous.
They are. Well, they're a prog rock band since around 93. They got started over in England.
Right.
So.
Oh, boy, I reckon they'd have trouble suing you, though.
Yeah, I decided.
Like if you went under the name Iron Maiden, you'd get sued because.
Oh, yeah.
I would just spell it wrong.
Yeah.
What's that
Maiden
famous?
With 2 eyes.
What's the famous Canadian band? And there was a great documentary about them. They'd never quite made it, and then they kind of had this documentary about them that was really.
The Headstones?
Great. No.
Green Day.
They're not Canadian.
I can't remember what it was, but And Leonard Cohen's Canadian, isn't he? Leonard Cohen's Canadian, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Neil Young.
Yep.
Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, I'll try and remember and write in the post later or something in the comments. Hey, can I just give a quick plug for 2 authors? I get no money from this, no kickback. But if anyone wants to understand about Adventism, I literally don't even. I know one of the authors only because I interviewed on my show, but I get no royalty or anything. But in leading up to this, I thought if people did want to dig deeper and actually get real insight, there's this book here called Whiteout by Dirk Anderson, and it's an amazing book, easy to read. I don't even know if you can get it on Kindle or not, but if you wanted to find out about Adventism in a really easy to read, that is such a good book. And this book called Prophetess of Health, this is my well-worn and that's by Ronald Numbers, and he's a great guy. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he was in so much trouble for putting this book out in the early 80s, I think. When I read this book, maybe 1991, I had to stop reading it because it was just blowing my mind too much. Like it shows the real Ellen White, talks about plagiarism, talks about Kellogg. Like Kellogg was,
the cereal?
The cereal guy. He was an Adventist. So Harvey, there's 2 brothers. They invented the cereal because Adventists didn't want to eat meat, not because of holistic kind of vegetarian reasons like you'd think, not for body's health, but because Ellen White had visions that meat hypes you up sexually, and it makes you a sexual being.
Tap.
Is it Anvil?
What's that?
Anvil?
Anvil, yes. Well done.
Oh, yeah.
Anvil. Yeah.
They were pretty big here in Canada.
Right, okay. But it was like they just never quite made it and not achieved the fame they should have achieved. So the documentary's about that. It's really good. I love Rush, by the way. I love Rush.
Oh, yeah. Number 1 Googler in the land.
You are great.
Anvil had a great song called Mad Dog. That was awesome. Mad Dog.
Oh, man. But Kellogg and his brother developed loose cereal, cornflakes, because you could have breakfast without having meat. So it's so that you don't hype up your sexual nervous system. And
right. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Kellogg used to, I don't know if I can say this on your show, but he used to get a fine needle wire, and he'd put it into, with parents' permission, into the foreskin of young boys, so that whenever they would get an erection, it would hurt. So they a lot of the health, like Adventists are known for having good health, and in Loma Linda University and that area, Californian Adventists live 10 years longer than the average US citizen because of their health. But I'm just saying the health message came from, kind of slightly questionable sources. Yeah. But those 2 books are absolute gold if you just wanted to learn about Adventism. And it's a fascinating religion. People say, why don't you just walk away from it? It's just too interesting. It's like if you were raised to believe in Star Wars was actually true.
Wait, what?
You found out, and then you found out it wasn't. You'd still be interested in Star Wars.
What do you mean, like it's not true? I don't understand the premise.
Sorry.
It's a bit confusing. If you could just clarify,
it is real. It is real. I'm sorry.
I thought that's what you meant.
Hey, Rogue was a good movie.
I did like Rogue One.
Yeah.
I like all the Star Wars stuff. I don't care what people say.
Yeah.
People are grumpy these days, man. Just grumpy.
I love when they have the marathons. Like we had a marathon of all in the local cinema a couple of years back.
Nice.
Right up
before times.
In the before times. Right up to Rogue One. In order of the actual, not the release dates, but in order of the sequence of the.
Oh, so like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, like from in order of events happening, not in order of the movies being released.
Sure. Yeah. Chronological order.
Yeah. And it started like 7:30 at night, went till about 11:30 the next morning.
I'm there for that.
It was so good.
Let me get my gray sweatpants and my own pillow. Let's do this.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm here.
My buddy did that with the Godfather trilogy. He had it all.
Oh, wow.
Or he had someone do it, and he chopped it up chronologically. So yeah,
I love it.
Interesting to watch it that way.
Yes, yeah, I like that. Yeah,
that's one of his favorite movies. Is the whole Godfather thing. Well, I think we have done the hour here, Peter.
Awesome.
Kind of want to know one more quick question here.
Yeah.
Since leaving the Adventists, what kind of pushback and stuff did you have from like family members and friends that are still in there? Like, did anyone cut you off? Because I hear that happens quite a bit.
Yeah. The Adventists do the cutoff, not as bad as the Jehovah's Witnesses, which have the
shunning
policy called shunning. Yeah, shunning. Adventists do it more. Like I had one friend write to me and say, "Oh man, I'm going to really miss you, and hey, all the best." And I wrote back and said, "Dude, I'm not dead."
Right.
And he went, "Oh." So I've kind of pushed back by just maintaining friendships. If people have been ignoring me, or I just don't worry about it. I just keep contacting them. How you doing? What are you up to? If they see them walking down the street, I stop and have a chat. G'day, mate. How you going? And I've been really lucky, I'd say. There's been, how you doing today, mate? I'm really lucky. My close family are all totally on the same page as me. My wife's family they're Irish and come from very Catholic Irish background, and they'd never even heard of Adventist till they'd met me. So that side of things are fine. No, I've been really well treated, actually. But I think partly because I've just, not accepted when people have kind of tried to push me under the rug. In fact, with my podcast, it's up to season 3 now, over 150 interviews. Most of them are 2.5 hours long. And I was about to close it down at season 1 when a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you're not an Adventist anymore. Why are you speaking for us? You can't speak for us. Tell me to do that." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to do a little bit more then." So I'm kind of fueled by people telling me not to do something.
I can definitely agree with that. It's been my life's ambition.
It's the muso thing again, isn't it? We musos tell us we can't do something.
I think that's true, man, because as soon as they tell you, okay, now you have to play at this tempo, I'm like, nah, that's too slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of the reason I became full-time music was because people said, "Oh, no, you should get a real job." Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I wanted to be a musician, but when people said I couldn't, then I embarked on full-time music. Hey, Neil, what's that other movie, High Fidelity? Have you seen that one? You were talking about the record store. I love that.
Yeah, High Fidelity is great.
I owned a music shop for 21 years as well. And
cool.
I would watch that movie and feel like I was Jack Black.
Yeah. Oh, he's brilliant in that show.
So good. Such a good movie.
I think that's the first movie I ever actually saw him in. Was that
right? Yeah, it definitely was for me. Yeah.
Well,
so how
sir,
can I hear some of Mikey's music? Is that how can I hear some of that? Send me some links later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm on Spotify. No one likes my shitty music. I've learned to accept it. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop making it or even fucking slow down. Buckle up, losers. I'm putting out more shit.
You can't go on Spotify.
I'm not even on Spotify. I should be. I should put some stuff on there. You know that?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it, but
hey, man,
I'm on SoundCloud.
I'm making big money right now from Spotify.
Oh
yeah, I've made
rolling in. You know?
I've made about 8 cents in the last 3 years, so I'm a professional recording artist now because I've been paid. So
Spotify, you get 0.012 of a cent if someone listens for more than 30 seconds, and if they're a paid up subscriber.
I'm just rolling in the dough now.
Oh, there we go.
You left out a 0 in that decimal though.
It's
0.007 of a cent.
It's crazy. As always, musicians are looked after by the man.
Oh yeah, they love us.
We're very I'll get all my friends to go listen to your song for 30 seconds so you can make some money.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I've got a sleep album. It's called Sleep Baby Sleep, Peter Dixon, Dixon. If they just put that on loop all night while they sleep, that helps me. I get about $2.50 a year from that one.
See, balling.
I don't make shit off. I mean, our music's even been played on the radio. We actually got to play live on the radio one time. Myself and my guitar player did an acoustic thing.
Yeah.
Well, it helps when you have friends in the industry, right? Like I know some DJs and stuff like that. So
yeah,
and stick with OnlyFans. Tons of my sis.
We'll start up an OnlyFans channel.
Yeah, all music.
That's the only way I can get people to listen to my music.
Mikey's shirtless playing his music.
It's not. I'm not even playing the guitar. I'm just pushing play on like an iPod.
Yeah, and just stand there, and your wife runs. You'll get a big following.
Yeah,
and my wife waxes my chest.
Okay, somebody would watch that. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I bet they would because I'd be in pain.
It's like 40-year-old virgin. All right, I say we wrap this up and we can talk about this kind of fun stuff in an after party. So, that being said, everyone out there in chat, if you would like to jump in with us for an after party, I know all my usuals will be in for sure. You can send myself or Mikey a message through one of the platforms that you were all together on, and we can get you a link and you can jump in here with Peter and myself and Mikey. Cool. And Peter, man, thanks for jumping in here. And
thanks for having me, Neil. I've loved it.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I very did much. I'm starting to trip over my words now. I did very much myself.
Trout mubbles.
Trout mubbles, yeah. That's exactly right. So yeah, thanks to all you guys out there in the chat for hanging out. There is a link to the after party in the description box below, and it'll also come up as a next suggestion or whatever once the credits run. And so thank you guys for hanging out. Always a pleasure having you guys watch the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, thanks to my patrons. You guys are great, and the show wouldn't be what it is without you. So big hearts to you guys for everything you do for the show. Quick reminder, probably this spring, Randolph and I'll be starting up our own call-in show called True North Talk. So you can subscribe to the channel over at the True North Talk YouTube channel, or you can find out more about it at www.truenorthtalk.ca. And myself and Mike here are some of the newer co-hosts, and I'll be on the February 2nd is when I think I'll be doing the next show, which will air the following Sunday. The Nonprofits, which is an ACA product, airs at 3 p.m. Central Time. So head over there and subscribe if you haven't already. And we were supposed to do an episode this last Saturday, but a bunch of shit happened. First of all, Seamus had a surgery on his hand. Andy had some issues at home that he had to deal with, and then I had to deal with my mom because she was having breathing issues, and turns out she went into some sort of a panic attack thing where that kicked in, and they were going to take her to the hospital, but when I got there she was fine. But I stayed with her for the day because having me around seems to cheer her up. I don't know why, but anyway. Yeah, it was a weird Saturday. We were all set and raring to go because we hadn't done one in a couple of months, and we're just like, yeah. But usually it's the last Saturday of every month, 2 p.m. Pacific time. We were going to do it last Saturday because this Saturday, of course, being Christmas. So look for us in January. We'll be back, promise. And anyways, guys, like I always say at the end of the interviews, sorry, like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
See you later.